Hello, welcome to La Excellence. In our environment and ecology series, we have discussed national parks, Ramsar wetlands, and biosphere reserves. In today's session, we are going to discuss about important environmental conventions. First of all, let us understand these keywords: conference, convention, protocol. Conference is a kind of broad meeting wherein all the members of the conference agree that we have to do these things. That means that's a broader agreement. Convention means they again gather, they formulate certain conditions. This way we have to implement this. In a convention, they set primary broad goals. To implement these broad goals, they all the members they meet and then they deliberate how to achieve these goals. And then to achieve these goals, to achieve these broader goals, there is this instrument called protocol. Protocol is again part of a convention. That means to achieve this goal, what are the clear guidelines? To achieve this goal, what are the clear guidelines? To achieve this, what are the clear guidelines? This way, a convention, a conference, a protocol are different. Out of these three, protocol is more specific, conference is broader. Right. Now, there are these two terms, sign and ratify, which we in general see whenever we read about a convention or a conference. What is the difference between sign and ratification? All the member countries that attended a particular conference or convention, if they agree, they first sign that particular convention. After signing, if they have to implement, some countries have certain rules. Let's say some countries, if they want to implement any international convention, their parliament has to agree. Some countries have a different process. Some other countries have different process. This way, after signing, there is another process which is called as ratification. Ratification means agreeing for implementation. Signing means agreeing for consideration. That's how both are different. India has signed many conventions, but we ratified few. That means signing is not equal to ratification. Sign is agreeing in principle, ratification means implementation. Now, there is this term called Conference of Parties, COP 12, COP 13, COP 24, like that. We generally read about this term, COP. What is the meaning of COP? COP is nothing but group of countries that participate in the convention. These are member countries. They take the decision. That's why Conference of Parties is also called as decision making body of the convention. Each convention has a Conference of Parties. Now let's start with this first important international agreement or convention, which is called as UNCED, United Nations Convention on Environment and Development. This summit is also called as Earth Summit. This was conducted in the year 1992. Before this particular summit, under United Nations, there is this document that was prepared which is called as Brundtland Report. Brundtland Report, which discussed about this term called sustainable development. Brundtland Report discussed about sustainable development. So now countries have to see on how to implement and how to achieve this particular goal of sustainable development. For that, they have organized a conference which we call as Earth Summit in 1992 in the place called Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro. As a follow up to this particular convention in 2012, that means after 20 years of this convention, we conducted Rio Plus 20 Summit. Now, if we look at 1992 Earth Summit, there are three important developments, documents. First one is Rio Declaration, second one is Agenda 21, third one Forest Principles. These three form the core principles of sustainable development. These three we started implementing. All the countries that have agreed for this, we started implementing these goals. The issues discussed in these documents. Now, there are three landmark agreements that were signed in this particular summit or in this particular conference. First one is UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Second one, UNCBD, United Nations Convention on Biodiversity. Third one, United Nations Convention on Desertification. See, this one is not legally binding. These two are legally binding. What do we mean by legally binding? Countries, if they agree, they have to pass laws in their own country to implement them. That's called legally binding. So, three agreements are the outcomes of UNCED, which is called as Earth Summit or also called as Rio Summit. Now, let's understand this organization, which is called as United Nations Environment Program. Simply, we call it as UN Environment. This is an agency under United Nations. In 1972, we conducted this particular conference, which is called as United Nations Conference on Human Environment. Under this conference, countries agreed that there should be an agency which oversees all the environmental activities of under United Nations. For that particular purpose, this UNEP is formed. UNEP conducts worldwide activities including it researches on issues related to environment, atmosphere, marine environment, terrestrial environment, and then it oversees green economy. What is the concept of green economy? Development with sustainability is called as green economy. Economic growth by preserving the sustainability or environment. Next, what are the points we should remember when we consider this UNEP? There is this organization called World Meteorological Organization under UN Environment. This World Meteorological Organization and UN Environment, these two together, they formed this particular intergovernmental panel on climate change in 1998. UN Environment is also participating in this global environmental facility. UNEP has implemented many protocols including Montreal Protocol, Minamata Convention, etc. These became successful. Montreal Protocol on ozone depletion, Minamata on mercury toxicity. These became successful under this particular UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, under UN, which coordinates the environmental activities of United Nations. Next one, Agenda 21. When we discussed about Earth Summit, we said there are three documents which were signed or which were agreed upon in UN under Rio Summit. This one is the first one, Agenda 2020, Agenda 21. This is non-binding action plan under United Nations, which is agreed upon in 1992. 21 signifies 21st century, and then the aim of this one, Agenda 2021, is to achieve the sustainable growth and development. See, we under United Nations Development Program, we have certain goals. From 2000 to 2015, we had Millennium Development Goals, MDGs. After that, from 2015 to 2030, we have SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. These Sustainable Development Goals, they are framed based upon this Agenda 2021. This is an outcome of Rio Summit. Next one, let's understand the three conventions that came as an outcome of Earth Summit. First one is UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. This particular convention, it is negotiated at the Earth Summit. It is signed in 1992 and 197 member countries are there under this particular convention. There are many protocols which came under this particular UNFCCC, which includes Kyoto Protocol and Paris Agreement. Under Paris Agreement, we have certain goals which we call as INDCs, Intended Nationally Determined Contributions. This particular UNFCCC is not legally binding. It is not legally binding. This particular treaty sets limits over the greenhouse gases. We need to reduce the greenhouse gases to address the climate change concerns. That's the goal of this particular convention. But these are not legally binding. Next, under this particular convention, all countries agreed upon this particular principle, which is called as common but differentiated principles. That means there are certain countries which are historically responsible for greenhouse gas emissions. They should reduce them, they should reduce the greenhouse emissions more now as compared to the developing countries and least developed countries whose historical emissions are very less. Yes or no? They emitted, so they have to take the responsibility. So that's how this principle is agreed upon in 1992. CBDR is based on two principal elements. One says that whoever pollutes, they should reduce, and other countries, they also have common responsibilities. Though historically they are not responsible, as of now as they are emitting, they also have to reduce the greenhouse emissions based on their national capacities. Whatever their capacity is there, based on that, they have to reduce their emissions. That's called common but differentiated principles, common but differentiated responsibilities. This one, the CBDR principle, is diluted under Paris Agreement. We will try to understand it when we read about Paris Agreement, but broadly, common but differentiated responsibility as a principle came under UNFCCC. Greenhouse gases. We said under this UNFCCC, reduction of greenhouse gases, greenhouse emission is the goal. Yes or no? Under that, there is this particular agreement called Kyoto Agreement. Kyoto Protocol. Kyoto Protocol was signed in the year 1997. According to that particular protocol, there are six greenhouse gases and then four fluorinated gases. These are recognized, and the goal is to reduce them from 2005 to 2015. In the 10 years timeline under Kyoto Protocol, we have to reduce these emissions. That's the goal under Kyoto Protocol. What are the six greenhouse gases? Water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, sulfur dioxide, and tropospheric ozone. These should be reduced along with the fluorinated gases such as chlorofluorocarbons, hydrofluorocarbons, perfluorocarbons, sulfur hexafluoride. These 10, 6 GHGs and 4 fluorinated gases, these have to be reduced under Kyoto Protocol. But the success is very limited. Now we are in 2021. So if we look back, our success under Kyoto Protocol is limited. Greenhouse gas emissions, though we tried to reduce them, but we didn't achieve the goal as we placed under Kyoto Protocol. Let's understand these two, Kyoto Protocol and Paris Agreement. We said Kyoto and Paris Agreement both are part of UNFCCC, which is resultant of Earth Summit 1992. Now, Kyoto Protocol, this was established in 1997, Paris Agreement in 2015. Kyoto Protocol primarily targeted industrialized countries because they are the ones who are responsible for the historical emissions. But Paris Agreement, it has mentioned that both developed countries should take up the responsibility in reducing the greenhouse gases. The objective of Kyoto Protocol is to reduce the greenhouse gases to 5.2% levels based on the 1990 emissions. But this one, Paris Agreement's goal is to prevent the global average temperatures to rise more than 2 degrees Celsius as compared to pre-industrial levels. Let's say pre-industrial average temperatures are 23. Paris Agreement says that by 2000, maximum temperature increase should be plus 2% only. That means 25% are global average temperatures. We should try to minimize it to 1.5%. That means 24.5%. That is the goal of Paris Agreement. It's a long-term goal. Kyoto Protocol, it aimed at reduction in the 6 major greenhouse gases and the fluorinated gases. But Paris Agreement focused on reducing all anthropogenic greenhouse gases. All, please try to remember that. First phase of Kyoto Protocol lasted until 2012 and then we extended it till 2020. Paris Agreement, though we signed it in 2015, we have not started its implementation. It's 2021 now. Countries, we didn't start implementing it. We should have started in 2020 because of last year's corona crisis, etc. Countries were unable to come to an agreement, so we couldn't implement this Paris Agreement. Next, What are the mechanisms under Kyoto Protocol? These are the three terms which we generally see in our prelims examination. Very important terms: JE, that is Joint Implementation, Clean Development Mechanism, CDM, Emission Trading, ET. Joint implementation means one developed country, that is one industrialized country, makes an agreement with other industrialized country saying that let's go with these technologies which will reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. That's called joint implementation. Clean development mechanism means a developed country invests in non-developed country, that is developing or least developed country, in green technologies. That way what happens? Carbon emissions, greenhouse gases reduces. That mechanism is called as clean development mechanism. Emission trading means any country, it has certain goal. Let's say 100 gigatons is the, let's say, goal for or budget for a particular country. In that particular year, it produced only 90 gigatons. That means there is a gap of 10 gigatons that can be sold as a carbon credit to any other country. Need not be industrialized country, to any other country. If they want to purchase the carbon credits, let's say they are emitting more than what they should have. So they can purchase this carbon credit. That way emission trading works. Emission trading, clean development mechanism, joint implementation, these are taken up under Kyoto Protocol as flexible market mechanisms. These three terms are very, very important for prelims examination. Next important convention is United Nations Convention on Combating Desertification, land related issue, land and soil related issue. This convention, again, it has its roots in the Earth Summit. This was signed in 1994. It was adopted in Paris. Overall 196 member countries are there. Under this particular convention, NAP, National Action Programs, NAPs are prepared by each country. These NAPs are long-term goals. These should be implemented by individual country and it is legally binding. We said out of the three, UNFCCC is not legally binding, but UNCCD, that is United Nations Convention on Combating Desertification, United Nations Convention on Biodiversity, these two are legally binding. This is not legally binding. So UNCCD legally binding. This UNCCD works in close cooperation with UNCBD. Why? Desertification, is it related to biodiversity or not? Yes or no? That's why UNCCD and UNCBD, they both work together closely. Right, let's see this. 2030 in India said that, see, overall 96 million hectares of land, that is 29% of our entire India's land mass is under land degradation. We are going to revive them. We are going to revive at least a part of the land. Earlier we said 21 million hectares of land we are going to restore. But then last year, that is 2019, we increased and we enhanced this target to 26 million hectares. 26 million hectares. Now the goal of India is to restore out of 96 million hectares, we want to restore 26 million hectares of land from desertification and land degradation. Now let's understand this. Reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation program, READ program. READ is nothing but to reduce the land degradation. In general, let's say in an area, there's more forest cover. If there is more forest cover, will the land be protected? Yes or no? Yes. So if the forest cover disappears and if we go on a large scale deforestation, what happens? Land degradation happens. So to reduce that degradation, there is this program called READ program. It is a multilateral collaborative program between FAO, Food and Agricultural Organization, UNDP, UNEP. This was created in 2018. Under this READ program, we want to mitigate the climate change, which helps UNFCCC. Plus, we want to incentivize the countries to protect the forest regions, which will reduce the land degradation. That means READ program and READ plus. READ plus means it is not simply addressing deforestation and degradation, it is actively enhancing the forest cover. So READ program can be linked to all the three, UNFCCC, UNCCD, UNCBD also. Once we understand UNCBD, we will see how this program can be linked to that also. Now let's understand this. United Nations Convention on Biodiversity, UNCBD. This one is very important because of this COVID crisis. Because see, we know that that's a zoonotic disease. Zoonotic means which spreads from animals to humans. Most probably it might be zoonotic disease, and there are many zoonotic diseases. WHO also said that threat of zoonotic disease is increasing in the recent years. Yes or no? In that context, biodiversity, maintaining biodiversity, protecting biological resources have become an important issue. Right? That's why very important for prelims. Now let's understand this. UNCBD is a multilateral treaty. We said this also has its origin to Earth Summit. So this came into effect in 1993. It is legally binding along with UNCCD. It is legally binding. There are 195 member countries which are part of this. This particular convention has three major goals. One, to protect the diversity. Two, to use the biological diversity. We have, let's say, huge forest wealth, animal wealth. We need to use it. But we have to conserve also. Conserve, use and share the benefits of biodiversity. Let's say if there is any medicinal plant that treats COVID-19, let's assume that's the case. Then whichever community is protecting that particular plant species, whichever community is protecting that traditional knowledge associated with that particular plant, they should get certain percentage of money that a particular company which manufactures medicine out of it will get. That's called fair and equitable sharing. These are three major objectives of UNCBD, United Nations Convention on Biodiversity. It's a legally binding agreement. Now, there are two important protocols under this particular convention. We said convention is much broader, protocols are specific. Under this UNCBD, Nagoya Protocol means under CBD, and there are other protocols. Cartagena Protocol is the name of other one under CBD. This Nagoya Protocol this was signed in 2010. And this one, Nagoya Protocol, says that if we are accessing any of the biodiverse and any of the natural resources, the benefit should be shared equitably and fairly to the locals. That's called Nagoya Protocol. Nagoya Protocol is also called as Access and Benefit Sharing, ABS. Nagoya Protocol can be remembered as this, one sentence only. That means access and benefit sharing to the local community. To protect that, there is this protocol, Nagoya Protocol under UNCBD. Second protocol is Cartagena Protocol. Cartagena Protocol is on biosafety. This is important. This one is in news. Biosafety means, see, there are some theories which says that lab theory of coronavirus. That means this this particular virus by accident or intentionally it skipped the lab premises. That's how this particular virus came into the wild. That's one of the theories. So this particular protocol, Cartagena Protocol, says that whenever there is any research or sale, anything related to living modified organisms, which are also called as GMOs, genetically modified organisms, these should be handled safely. Biosafety. Biosafety means whenever LMOs or GMOs are there, based on the modern biotechnology, they should not have any adverse effects. They should be handled safely. This is the convention under UNCBD. That means under CBD there are two conventions. Excuse me. Under CBD there are two conventions. One is Nagoya Protocol. Nagoya Protocol says that access and benefit sharing should be there. And this one, Cartagena Protocol. Cartagena Protocol says that biosafety of living modified organisms should be maintained. Right? Important. So this is the table that describes the differences between Nagoya and Cartagena Protocol. Please go through it once. Whatever we have discussed, that's there in this particular table. Now, Aichi biodiversity targets. Important, Aichi biodiversity targets means under UNCBD, there are certain goals which should be implemented. So, this particular Aichi biodiversity targets, there are 20 ambitious goals that are known as Aichi targets. Based on these Aichi targets, every country develops their own national biodiversity targets. India has developed 12 national biodiversity targets under this particular framework. Question can be this way. Aichi biodiversity targets are proposed under which convention, or what are the goals of Aichi targets? We say that biodiversity conservation, right? Next important convention is Vienna Convention, which is also considered as one of the world's most successful environmental conventions. What this convention says is ozone layer is there. This ozone layer protects our earth from the harmful UV rays. Yes or no? This is located in the stratosphere, in the atmosphere. This is the second layer. Stratosphere, this particular ozone layer is located. This ozone layer protects the earth from the harmful UV rays. Now there are certain gases which, when these are released into the atmosphere, which are harming this particular ozone layer. This is leading to thinning of this ozone layer. So that makes us vulnerable to the incoming UV rays. In that context, we want to reduce the emissions of those ozone depleting substances. For that, there is this convention called Vienna Convention. To implement that convention, there is this protocol. We call it as Montreal Protocol. Let's understand this. 1985, in the year 1985, Vienna Convention on Protection of Ozone Layer. This was signed under United Nations. This is to prevent the damage to the stratospheric ozone layer. To implement the goals of Vienna Convention, we have brought in this Montreal Protocol in the year 1987. This particular protocol says that there are certain ozone depleting substances. These needs to be reduced. We listed down a certain ozone depleting substances. All member countries of Vienna Convention, they agreed and we started implementing it. A few years back, that is in 2016, we made an amendment to this Montreal Protocol under this particular summit called Kigali Summit. This amendment is called as Kigali Agreement. This Kigali Agreement says that, see, there are ozone depleting substances, we should reduce them. Along with that, there are HFCs, hydrofluorocarbons. Earlier, under Montreal Protocol of 1987, there are very few hydrofluorocarbons which are set under this convention, but now we should reduce or avoid HFCs because HFCs are causing climate change. Some of the HFCs are used, some of the HFCs are declared as not harmful for ozone layer. So under Montreal Protocol, exemptions are provided for these HFCs. Now under Kigali Amendment, these HFCs are also added. That's why Kigali Amendment is for what? Ozone depletion, to reduce the ozone depleting substances. Montreal Protocol is same thing. Vienna Convention is the parent convention. To implement that, Montreal Protocol is signed. Now this is about HFCs, hydrofluorocarbons. Hydrofluorocarbons, one, they are the greenhouse gases. That's why under Kigali Agreement, all the member countries agreed to reduce these hydrofluorocarbons. This is how we have made the targets. By 2026, we have to reduce them. Maximum reduction of 85% by 2014. See, we need not go through every point under this, but we have to know what are the broader goals, what India has agreed for. India has agreed to reduce the HFCs, 85% of HFCs by 2047 based on 2024 and 2026 baseline. That means by 2024-2026, whatever HFCs we emit, based on that level 85% we are going to reduce in 2047. That's how HFC goals are set. If we see the consumption status of HFCs, India consumes very less. India consumes very less compared to USA, China, Europe and Japan. But then we also agreed under this Vienna Convention is an universal convention. Most countries agreed for the implementation. Let's see what are these ozone depleting substances, ODOs, ozone depleting substances. Some of the examples are here: chlorofluorocarbons, hydrochlorofluorocarbons, carbon tetrachloride, methyl chloroform, hydrobromofluorocarbons, halones. These are some of the ozone depleting substances. There is a growing study over the combined gases which can harm both the ozone layer and to the greenhouse which can cause the greenhouse effect. If we go through this ozone depleting substances, greenhouse gases, there are certain gases which are called as CFCs, HFCs, N2O. These can act as both ozone depleting substances as well as the greenhouse gases. Right? That's why under Kigali Amendment we said certain HFCs needs to be reduced. Yes? Next important convention is Convention on Migratory Species. This is also known as Bonn Convention. This Bonn Convention started implementing in 1983. There are two appendices. One which lists down the migratory species threatened with extinction. Appendix 2, it also adds migratory species but which has unfavorable conservation. That means Appendix 1 means more threat compared to the species that are added under Appendix 2. Do you know? This is the only convention, this is the only global convention which targets all the species, aquatic species, terrestrial species, avian species. That means the species that fly, that swim, and that roams over the land. So all the species and their habitats are covered under CMS. That means this is one of the broadest conventions that we have, environmental conventions. CMS, this is legally binding agreement. India is part of this convention. Next convention is CITES Convention. Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, CITES. This is adopted in 1963, came into force in 1975. This is to protect the trade of wild species. Wild species include animals, also plants. Plants and animals, when we trade them, what are the measures that we should take? And which species should not be sold? These are all the points that are mentioned under this particular convention called CITES Agreement. CITES Secretariat is administered by UNEP, United Nations Environment Programme. India is party to CITES Convention also. The full form of CITES is Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. Next one, eighth one, is Stockholm Convention on POPs, persistent organic pollutants. Very, very important. Persistent organic pollutants. This is the treaty that deals with the human health. Yes, we have to protect the environment and directly we deal with the human health also. Other conventions, yes, they also indirectly leads to better health. But this one is directly deals with the human health because these POPs directly impact the human health. This was signed in the year 2001, came into effect in 2004. POPs means persistent organic pollutant. That means once they are released into the atmosphere, they will stay in the atmosphere for a longer time. It takes a lot of money and effort to clean them up. And these persistent organic pollutants, they can cause severe health problems. That's why persistent organic pollutants needs to be reduced. For that only Stockholm Convention is signed. What are the objectives of this convention? One, we should move to other alternatives. Let's say there are certain painkillers. Let's say diclofenac. Diclofenac is a painkiller which is a persistent organic pollutant. So, if we are not using it, we should have some alternatives, yes or no? That's why we should transition to safer alternatives. We should target the POPs, we should reduce them, clean up the old stockpiles of persistent organic pollutants, finally to work for POP free world. What are these POPs? Let's understand this. This is the term, very important term, dirty dozen. Dirty dozen. POPs, as we said, they bioaccumulate and they are less soluble, they have adverse impact over the health and environment. Dirty dozen means these are the 12 important persistent organic pollutants, 8 pesticides, 2 industrial chemicals, 2 byproducts from the industrial products. So overall 12 persistent organic pollutants are declared, and these needs to be reduced under Stockholm Convention. That's why these are called dirty dozen. Dirty dozen. The next convention is Basel Convention. Basel Convention on Transboundary Movement of Hazardous Waste and Their Disposal. This convention was signed in 1992. This one, PCA, this is important clause under this. Prior consent approval. That means if a country is transporting hazardous waste from this country to this country, this destination country, let's say this is A, this is B, this should give the approval. This should give the approval first. That's called PCA, prior consent agreement. If there is no prior agreement, prior consent, if this country transports this hazardous waste, then this is considered as illegal. Basel Convention considers such agreements, without agreement, if there is any transport, it is considered as illegal. So, all the member countries under this particular Basel Convention needs to make domestic legislation to curb these kind of illegal transport of transboundary movement of hazardous waste. There are certain rich countries which are transporting their waste, especially e-waste, plastic waste, to the countries like Philippines, African countries, etc. So the destination country should agree for that. Otherwise, what happens? Otherwise, it is going to harm the people of this country. If they agree, they will have certain mechanisms to dispose it safely. Otherwise, they'll have to face the problems. Right, Basel Convention is on hazardous waste transboundary movement. Next convention is Rotterdam Convention on Hazardous Chemicals. This Basel Convention is on waste materials. This one is on chemicals, industrial chemicals. Certain chemicals are manufactured which are useful but which are hazardous. Useful, but if they are not handled safely, these would be hazardous. These chemicals, when they manufactured and when they are sold to a particular country, when they are shipped to a particular country, prior informed consent is needed. That means under Rotterdam Convention, which was signed in 1998, there is a shared responsibility to the country that is exporting, to the country that is importing these chemicals. Prior informed consent, it is related to Rotterdam Convention. PCA, that is prior consent approval, is related to Basel Convention. Next one, Minamata Convention. Minamata Convention on mercury pollution. Minamata is a fishing village in Japan. At this particular place, first time this mercury pollution poisoning was observed. That's why this convention is named after this particular village. Minamata, a convention on mercury. This was signed in 2013. What happens is there are certain activities like fishing, offshore mining. In these activities, mercury is used. When this mercury is spilled over the water or over any other water body, then the, let's say, fishes or other marine organisms that stay in that water, they take it initially in small quantities. Over a period of time, through bioaccumulation and bioconcentration, it increases. When we consume these fishes, what happens? That contaminated fish, when we consume it, that particular mercury, it enters into our body, it will have adverse health impacts. That's why countries agreed for this. They said that when we use this one mercury, first of all, we should try to minimize the use of it. If we have to use it mandatorily, we have to use it safely. That's how Minamata Convention was signed. Important one. See, this is Minamata cycle or Minamata disease cycle. This mercury emitted from any source and then deposited over any surface. Let's say through lakes, rivers, etc. It enters into any water body. Fishes consume it. We consume it as a food. That's how it enters into our body. There is a disease called Chicho Minamata disease, which is a neurological syndrome because of this mercury poisoning. That's why to address this particular one, Minamata Convention was signed. Next one, Ramsar Convention. Ramsar is a city in Iran. Ramsar Convention is related to wetlands. This protects the wetland ecosystems across the world. It was signed in the year 1971. It came into effect in 1972. Under our environment and ecology series, we have made a separate video on Ramsar wetlands. Please try to go through it once if possible. There is this particular record called Montreux record. This notes down the wetlands which require urgent measures to protect it. There are two wetlands, Kyolodevo National Park. Second one, Loktak Lake. Loktak Lake and Kyolodevo National Park. As of now, these two are under Montreux record. Earlier, Chilka Lake was part of it, but now, because of enhanced conservation measures of Chilka Lake, now it is not under Montreux record. Only two locations or two wetlands are placed under Ramsar's Montreux record. There are many wetlands which are recognized under Ramsar Convention in India, but these are the two wetlands which are placed under Montreux record. Next one and the last one is Madrid Protocol. Madrid Protocol is to protect the Antarctic. That means South Pole region and the Antarctic continent. Antarctic continent, as we know, that is not permanently inhabited, only for scientific purpose. Certain scientists and others are staying over there in small bases. Otherwise, there is no permanent settlement in that particular continent. Now, we need to protect it, and no one should claim and no one should disturb the ecosystem of that particular region. With that purpose, this particular Madrid Protocol is signed. This is part of Antarctic Treaty System. Antarctic Treaty System is a broader one. To implement that, we agreed upon this Madrid Protocol. There are 10 important points under this protocol. One is to prioritize the scientific value, no mining, adverse impacts with the tourism, etc. These should be avoided. Waste management, waste water from ships, this is regulated. Likewise, there are many measures which are proposed under Madrid Protocol. In overall, Madrid Protocol can be said as protocol to protect the Antarctic region. This is about this chapter, environmental conventions. The PDF is uploaded in the description box. You can check the links. If you have any queries, questions, you can ask us in the comment section. All the very best. Thank you very much.